Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today it is my pleasure to have Tian Mu with us. Tian spent the first 2 decades of his career as a tech entrepreneur, from gaming to e-commerce to crypto investments. In 2009, Tian had his spiritual awakening and began focusing on self-realization while running his game studio. Tian's main purpose this lifetime is to assist the awakening of the mass consciousness and help usher humanity into its next golden age. Tian, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So let's first of all share, if you would, your origin story, your awakening, where you were before, and how you ended up getting into this spiritual awakening place.
So where was I before? I was more of an atheist before,
I
born
can
in
relate.
China. Right. So, born in China, spent the first 12 years of my life there. I was taught to only believe in science, to believe in this physical reality, data. But after I moved to the US, I actually, even while I was in China, I experienced certain supernatural phenomena in my life, but I had no idea what they were, and I thought maybe I imagined them. And then in 2009, I had my initial awakening. And then since then, I was able to look back and really understand what was happening to me. And to be honest, there wasn't a singular event that, initiated my awakening. It was simply my time, I would say, through a series of synchronicities, meeting certain people and asking myself certain questions. And and here I am.
Awesome. Okay, so you said that there were some synchronicities that happened, and tell us like the difference between 2008 and 2009. What that must have been a world of difference for you. Walk us through that.
It actually wasn't so much between 2008 and 2009. It was really more after 2009, right? When you have the initial awakening, it's more, for me, it was more of this huge epiphany, right? And suddenly this realization, I've always been a very, like alpha male. And that's I have this type A personality, right? Whenever I set a goal, I would just go after it and make it happen. Never really understood the concept of going with the flow. Heard it a million times, but it's like, okay, whatever. But really, after my awakening, I realized I didn't have to fight all the time. It's
Yeah,
really more about going with that flow, seeing that energy and ride that wave.
right. It's like you're getting carried down the river. Don't try and swim it, and don't try certainly to go upstream. It's not your own efforts by itself that's getting you the outcome. You have a lot of assistance from your unseen support team. So
Exactly.
trust it and go with it. Don't go against it, and don't try to don't imagine yourself doing it all by yourself, because then you're pushing your assistance from the other side of the veil away from you.
See, those, we can use those words now, but that time I had no idea. I didn't know anything about
Yeah,
my team. I didn't believe in spirits or anything of the sort. It
yeah,
was just me against the world, right? That was the mentality. But slowly, I think really, that, like that saying, right? The teacher shows up when the student is ready, right? Like,
hmm
you don't,
yeah. Or a leap and a net will appear.
exactly.
It's a little different, but it still applies. Like if you're ready for the awakening and you haven't had it yet, you could make the leap and just trust that the net's going to appear, and it will.
Yes, exactly. Just like in that movie, The Matrix, right? There is no spoon.
Yeah, love that scene. I love that scene. That encapsulates so much of what that movie is about and what our reality is about. I now have seen The Matrix at least 4 or 5 times, And I always loved the movie. I didn't care for the second and third movies very much, but the first one I really loved. And it makes sense now knowing that the first movie wasn't actually written by the Wachowski brothers. It was essentially stolen. This lady wrote it for a science fiction script writing contest over a decade earlier, and never heard anything, never won, never got any contact. But then there shows up the movie, like, hey, I wrote that. And
Yeah, did you read that
yeah,
in
she was
the
actually a speaker on metal.
Yes.
So we're in the metal mastermind together, and that's how we met. And yeah, Ken Rutkowski, who runs metal, had her come and speak, and yeah, she went after the Wachowski brothers, now sisters, in a lawsuit. I don't know what the outcome was of that, but in any respect, I was fascinated to hear that she also wrote the Terminator script, and those timelines intersected. John, what was his last name from the Terminator?
You mean the main character?
Yeah.
Yeah, John. I don't remember.
Okay, I'm going to Google that while we're John Connor. So John Connor from the Terminator was actually Neo in the Matrix.
Whoa.
So these timelines intersected between the two movies.
Whoa.
I had no idea until I heard the lady from in that Metal Talk. What is her name? I'm gonna Google that too.
Yeah, I'm connected to her on LinkedIn actually, but I don't remember her name either.
Sophia Stewart.
Sophia.
Yeah, so it was Sophia Stewart who wrote those two scripts, The Matrix and Terminator, and yeah, didn't get any credit whatsoever.
Well, I hope.
Were you aware of that story of her getting essentially ripped off?
Yeah, of the Matrix one. I didn't know she also wrote Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she wrote the script back in the 80s. I think she just submitted it to a bunch of studios and never heard back.
Yeah. And what she was describing was receiving it as a download. So that makes total sense when it's so kind of revelatory, and it's like premonitions of what's the world to come, or potentially, or the world that is, in some respects, maybe more allegory than truth. But there's a lot of truth in that. It's more of a documentary than you might imagine, or than our listener might imagine.
Yeah, a lot of my friends say that. But also, I think she tapped into a different timeline, right? A parallel timeline that was happening, and that's really what imagination is. When people talk about imagination like it's not real, it's very, very real. It's just in a different realm, in a different dimension, a different timeline from the one that you're currently.
Yeah, and also in a dream state, you're receiving and interacting in the astral planes. You're astral traveling and doing all sorts of stuff that is not just synapses firing. Like, you're learning, growing, interacting with people alive and on the other side, dead, deceased, who passed. But I don't like using any of that terminology now, because they're as real as we are. I mean, it's the unseen world is actually more real than the seen world. I did not understand that at all until my spiritual awakening. Even in I think it took the second spiritual awakening to really awaken that understanding.
Well, I mean,
so I had the two awakenings, one in 2012, where I went from almost an atheist to spiritual. I got touched on the head by a monk in India and had the whole kind of LSD trip sort of experience without any drugs, everything in Technicolor and all that. But then last year was when I had the second awakening, and I was that awakened my psychic abilities as well. But I was shown essentially the Matrix, and wow, changed everything for me. This whole episode for you, listener, if you're unfamiliar with that story, I go into it in some detail in episode 300. My wife Orion interviewed me in that particular episode, so I would encourage you to listen to that. But this whole thing of the Matrix, and that we are living in a simulation or an illusion of sorts. Like, let's talk through that a bit, because I think that's really important for our listener or viewer to grasp the significance of that.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, when you mentioned that this unseen world is actually more real than the seen world, right? Well, today science already proved that what we see is only a fraction of 0.05% of what's in front of us. Right? So really it shows that we can see only a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of reality. And there's just so much more that we don't even see or feel. Right? So, yeah.
Yeah. In Kabbalah, they talk about the 99% reality and the 1% reality. And we're living in the 1% reality as if that's all there is. And considering like, the universe is vast and the number of stars exceeds the number of granules of sand on all the beaches in the world, that's still inside the 1%. That vastness and that the awe that we have for all that we can imagine inside of this reality of this universe is still in the 1%. There's the 99% that we just can't even fathom. Right. We're not even aware that it's not in our awareness.
Hence, we need to level up our consciousness.
Yeah, that's a great way of framing it, because it is like a video game. So, Dolores Cannon, the way she framed it, it's like a play, and we were given the script. We actually wrote the script or co-wrote it. Like, here's how our life is going to unfold. You're going to have this and that happen, and all these little minor things and all these big things and the health challenges and everything. It's all planned out, and you're just acting it out, the script, and you don't realize it. You get that spiritual amnesia, so you come into it fresh, and like, who'd want to go watch a movie or a play where they're given the script ahead of time and they read it? Like, nobody wants to read the Wikipedia page for a movie before they go see it. I remember going to see the Truman Show when it first came out in theaters, and I had no idea what the premise of the movie was. I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't even read a couple sentence blurb about what the movie was about. I went in completely blind, and I loved it. I was as clueless as Truman was in that movie. And that's the way that our life should unfold for us. Is it's a fun, exciting surprise, and not just a I'm playing out the role that was given to me, because that lacks the spice of life. I mean, if we know we're going to get in a car accident on next Tuesday, are we going to still want to leave the house? I don't know. What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, one, if you're talking about probably what you will know is you may die next Tuesday, right? And then you change your plans. It's like, okay, I was supposed to go to work. I'm not going to go to work. And then your house collapsed. Yeah. That's what actually killed you.
Yeah, because that's your death date. That's your um, yeah,
Right.
that's the
There's
exit
no
ramp.
getting out of it. Right. If this is indeed a script. Maybe one thing
Yeah.
I was told by my spirit guides was that, in a typical incarnation, we have anywhere between 30 and 40 potential exit points, meaning there are moments in your life where that's where you exit. Right. And so, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
all these are very, very possible. It really everything comes down to the choices you make in your life. It could even be as small
Yeah.
as, turning left at a red light versus going straight as you typically do. And that could completely change the trajectory of your life. Right. So,
Yeah, just an example of that was, man, this was like a couple months ago. So we were feeding a stray cat who kind of pseudo adopted us, and we adopted him. Uh, Turns out there were other families in the neighborhood that also felt that way about that cat. So he was kind of cheating on us, but yeah, probably getting 3 or 4 meals a day. But in any event, he didn't come in the house. He didn't want to be in the house. He just wanted to be an outdoor cat, but he would come and get meals from us. Well, one day he didn't show up, and my wife Orion told me that I had this dream like thing that he had
hmm,
died, and I hope it's not true, but I have a really
hmm,
bad feeling about it that he's not coming back. And then 2 days, 3 days, 4 days go by, and he still didn't show up. Well, we go for a walk, and we've got our little one in a stroller, and I usually turn left at the end of our street to go north, and like 98% of the time going to the left instead of to the right. Well, Orion is like,
hmm,
turn right. I'm like, okay, all right, sure. And we saw his body in the road just a block and a half away. I wouldn't have seen that on my own because I wouldn't have
hmm,
turned that direction. But her inner knowing knew that that's where, it was just like she
hmm.
saw it in her vision.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a big deal about turning right, turning left, these little small things that could lead to the big synchronicities or the serendipities that are life changing. And you might think, well, what's the chances of that? And what if I screw it up? What if I don't heed that little nudge or intuitive feeling? Think of it more like you're on you're being carried on the river, and don't try and go against the current, just let it carry you, and things are going to happen. Or another way to think of it is like, this is like a magnetized track. You're on a monorail, and it's really hard to go off track. It's possible because free will is real. You do get choices, and if you want to do something really stupid, you can. Like if you want to go and cut your finger on with a steak knife, you can. Not recommended, and it's going to feel very out of alignment, but you have free will. So just allow these synchronicities and serendipities to happen for you, and trust that it's all happening and unfolding like you're
Hmm.
playing that part in the
Indeed.
play. So,
When I was a teenager, ever since I was a teenager, I would get this funny vision where I see myself on the stage, and then I'm looking out into this audience, and I see literally people come on and leave, and they just watch my show. And that just felt really strange. I'm like, what if this is actually my life? What if there's actually this audience out there that I don't see that's watching me, watching this life? And at the time, I didn't know why I had that vision, and I just thought it was silly. But now I'm like, oh, yep, that's very much what's happening.
it's the
Yes,
Truman
know that
Show.
you're being watched every moment of your life, but without judgment.
Right. I was on a metal call. It was the daily
Mm.
Wim Hof breathing group. So we all do the breathing together, or the Wim Hof style breathing, which is
I do it every
fantastic. Highly
morning.
recommend it. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, listener, uh, we'll put it in the show notes. Wim Hof is an amazing, amazing human, and his breathing technique is life changing. So, anyways, I was on this Wim Hof call, not with Wim, but with Neil Cannon, who runs the group, who's a metal member, and then there are maybe 15 or 20 other people. And there's one guy that is right after the breathing exercise. We go around to share a word or a thought that comes to us that's like something that we feel is like a takeaway from that breathing. And I shared that there are no private thoughts. Yeah, so there was this guy in metal who said it was a terrifying thought to him. And I could see where he would think that, because prior to my spiritual awakening, I was um, pretty reactive, and I wasn't very aware. And I was, I don't know, just my thoughts were not always uh, the purest and the most. I don't know. I just didn't. I wasn't. Um, I didn't have very good mental hygiene, because I didn't know it was important, and I didn't know that other people were listening in. That I was broadcasting my own thoughts out into the field, for not just the creator to heal, for the not just for the creator to hear, but for everyone who is supporting me on this journey, all my guides, spiritual teachers, my loved ones, everybody's picking up on this stuff, right? So keep it clean, keep it really pure. Not, because of potential punitive measures, because, like you said, this isn't about judgment. This is just about um, them supporting you on this journey so that you get the best, most benevolent outcome.
Right. Well, we didn't know any better. I mean, growing up, no one taught me. No one said anything about energy, about frequency, about spirit, about any of those things. And I thought this was it. Somehow I randomly appeared here, right? And I have this one life to live. And I look around and I see, okay, everyone else is doing that thing. Then fine, I'm doing that thing too. Right? Not until later on you go, wait a minute. Where did I even get my beliefs? Like, are these even mine? Right? And I think, since my awakening, the biggest work I had to do was really to examine every belief that I've held and then ask myself, is this my belief or did someone feed this to me? Right? And if someone fed this to me, do I still believe this? Right? Let me do my own homework. Let me do my research and see if I want to still, hold on to this belief or, take a new one.
Yeah. So
And I've
what's an
been doing
example
that
of
for
a
years.
belief that you had that you have discarded, that was essentially given to you?
Oh, so many. I mean, like no pain, no gain. Right? That's one you hear a lot.
Money
Oh,
doesn't grow on
no pain,
trees.
no
How about that one?
gain. Well, money actually does grow on trees
Yeah,
in
exactly.
a metaphorical way.
Like, yeah,
Right? It's just a
metaphorically.
lot of those sayings that you're like, oh, and or seeing is believing. It's actually the other way around, right?
Right. Like, yeah,
When
let's
you
let's unpack that a bit.
okay,
Somebody who's heard this for the first time will think, what in the heck are these guys talking about? Believing is seeing? No, like, okay, maybe seeing is believing it doesn't really lead to the best outcome, because then you're a big skeptic or maybe even a cynic, and you don't trust anybody until you're given the proof or the evidence. Okay, I could see that would be a limiting belief, but how is believing as seeing? How the heck does that work? How is that true? You want to elaborate?
Sure. Well, I mean, first you have to know that you are a creator, right? Or you're a co-creator. You're co-creating your reality with God or source or whatever you want to call this creative source, this force. So that being the case, you create, from your thoughts, from your, it's whatever it is that you first envision, but not just, but you don't stop there, right? You visualize this thing, but also you need to believe it, you need to feel it in you, right? How does it feel, right? If you visualize this Ferrari that you want, now you visualize yourself sitting behind the wheel, you're driving up the PCH. Now what's the sensation? Do you feel joy? Do you feel like, yeah, this is my life, this is my car? Or that moment you go, I could never have this. This is not mine. I'm just leasing it, borrowing it for a day, right? Because that sensation, that feeling is what's going to help you manifest and bring this into the physical reality. So first you really believe it. I mean, you look at every entrepreneur who's ever succeeded, right? It's because they believed in their own vision. Right? It's just they probably got so many no's and so many naysayers, and people say that can't be done, you're crazy, don't waste your time, don't waste your money, right? But they didn't listen. They're like, nope, I believe this thing can be done and it's going to be successful. And that's why they persevered. And that's why they kept going, and they ultimately made it happen, right? If they didn't believe it, they would have given up. Right? So you first believe it, then you can manifest it into your reality. And in a way it's like looking at your own reflection in the mirror, right? Like, you know when you move, you can see your reflection in the mirror move, right? But in this world, we're taught to tell the reflection, say, hey, you move first, then I'll move. You move, reflection, then I'll believe it. Like, no. You got to make the first move, then you'll see it in this reflection, and reflection is this physical reality that surrounds us.
Yeah. So if it's something you desire, then it's already in your vortex. It just hasn't necessarily materialized into physical reality yet, but it's just on the cusp. Because otherwise, if you didn't desire it, it wouldn't be in your vortex, and it's not waiting for you.
Exactly. And then taking another step further, right? That saying, the universe doesn't give you what you want, but it gives you who you are, right? So, because there are times if you want something, you're also saying to the universe, I don't have this thing that I want, right? The universe can't give you what you don't believe you have, right? So if you say, I am abundance, that's who I am. I am health, right? Then yes, the universe only says yes to us all day long. So whatever it is you believe, whatever it is you declare, the universe says yes. So if you say, hey, this is such a beautiful, fair, amazing world, the universe will say yes and show you that day in and day out. But if you say this is such an unfair, ugly place, the universe will also say yes to you and show you that as well.
Yeah, and it's not even just what you say in your own self-talk, it's just where you focus your attention too. So if you're watching a lot of dystopian sci-fi movies, or you're watching a lot of true crime, or listening to a lot of true crime podcasts, not good. Not good. You're amplifying that in your field and creating that reality.
Yeah. And also, again, we have to understand that we're such powerful creator beings, right? And we create also through our focus, our attention. So, whatever we put our attention to, that's what we're going to create. So, if you focus on fear, right? If you focus on, oh, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor, you look at that sentence, where's the most energy focused on? It's on that word poor, right? If you're thinking that all day long, you're just generating more poor. That's it, right? But if you flip it and you say, I am abundance, right? I am abundance. I have abundance. Suddenly the focus is on abundance, and the universe will say, oh, you want abundance? Of course, here's more of that. Right? And same thing for people who are like, oh, I want to lose weight. I don't want to be fat. I want to lose weight. Again, you're focusing on on the word fat, right? And there's this fear around it. And fear is a very powerful energy, right? It's not nearly as powerful as love, but it's still very darn powerful. So yeah, you're gonna generate more of that. But if you say, hey, I am health, I am healthy, I am focused,
Yeah, I'm fit. I'm a healthy weight.
exactly,
I'm vital.
exactly,
I'm vibrant.
yes, then the universe will give you more of that.
And it's not just with your own self-talk, it's with dealing with others too. Like, this is very practical stuff. Watch your words, and especially when you're dealing with kind of subliminal programming that you're inadvertently giving to others, as well as yourself, of course. Like, for example, let's say somebody is really out of sorts. You don't tell them don't panic, especially if their amygdala has hijacked their entire brain. Wow, you just told them panic, because they don't even hear the don't.
Exactly.
All they hear is the main keyword, which is panic. Instead, tell them remain calm. Right? That presupposition that you're already calm, and then the main keyword they hear is the word calm. That's going to help them get back into a parasympathetic state.
I completely agree. I mean, this happened once I was in China, and this woman was driving, and I think it was her first time driving on the road in Beijing. And I think she's American, and she was freaking out because people there drive like crazy, right? And I felt her energy, and instantly I just brought this. I was like, so I put my hand on her shoulder and say, it's okay, don't worry, we're here, we're good, we're safe. And instantly her energy shifted, right? And she just said, oh wow, I feel a lot calmer now. Thank you, I feel at peace. It's like, yeah, don't worry, we're good, we're protected. And then we had a very safe and smooth journey. Yeah, if I said don't do that, don't panic, yeah, like you said, I think that would have freaked her out more.
Yeah. Another thing too that I don't know if you follow Abraham, which is a
Abraham
group
Hicks.
of entities, of beings that get channeled through Esther Hicks.
Yeah.
Abraham talks about having kind of a fuzzy view of the dark dystopian stuff. If don't focus on the conspiracy facts, conspiracy theories that are facts, right? And go down those rabbit holes, because that doesn't serve you. And instead maintain a fuzzy kind of focus on that stuff that you don't want. You're not pretending it doesn't exist, but you're not feeding it attention.
Right. That's
And
exactly
more importantly, you're not feeding it fear. That's where the matrix analogy comes in again. Like, we're like Duracell batteries feeding the negativity, negative entities, and so forth with our own fear and negative emotions. So stop feeding them the fear, and instead just have that fuzzy focus. Like, don't give it much attention, but you're not pretending it doesn't exist. And it's almost like there's a movie from the late 90s, came out around the same time as The Matrix, and it was called The 13th Floor. I loved that movie, and there was a scene where the simulation ended, and it was just a wireframe, not filled in, not rendered. And it's like that, but with our attention, we fill in the gaps, we render what we want. So we could go down these dark dystopian rabbit holes and learn all about what's happening with dark agendas and so forth, powerful corporations and so forth. But does that serve us? And does that serve anybody else? Are you going to be able to do anything valuable with that information? Or does it just get you more anxious and fearful? Does it perhaps serve you better to believe in the highest, best outcome is coming to pass for all of us, for our soul's highest and best good, and that the light has already won, and that you're co-creating that reality instead? I think that's more powerful because you're the observer, and the observer effect is very real in quantum physics. You can collapse the wave function of the distribution of potentiality of light to just collapse it down to the wave from waves down to particles, and you can do that with your focus, your attention, in terms of the potential outcomes and the timelines. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on all that.
I 100% agree with everything you just shared. Yeah.
Did you see that movie, The 13th
No,
Floor?
now I'm going to.
It's been a long time since I saw it. It was before my awakening, so I didn't really get the real gist of it.
Mm,
Kind of like when I first saw The Matrix, I didn't have my awakening, so I
mm.
had no clue that this was essentially like a documentary.
Yeah. Well, but something I would like to add on to what you said there, which is, we do need to be informed of what's going on in the world, right? But at the same time, don't let that distract us, right? And focus instead on our highest excitement and highest joy. Really, I think that is the best thing, the best contribution one can do for the world, right? Really just focus on what makes me so happy today. What will bring me so much joy, true joy. I'm not talking about, pleasure. That's a whole different topic, right? And, like pleasure is usually induced by external, factors and substances and what have you, right? But I'm talking about joy.
Yeah, and oftentimes very hedonistic.
Exactly. But joy comes from within, right? And as you could be sitting in a jail cell and you could feel this joy inside you, this peace, and nobody can take that away from you, right? That's what I'm talking about. So really, see what's going on in the world, be informed at the same time, go, okay, what am I here for? Right? What brings me the highest joy? And let me just do that. And really, I think if everyone just did that, this would be heaven on earth right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of jail cells, I just think, like, what would have happened if Nelson Mandela didn't get that prison time? What would have happened if Viktor Frankl didn't get imprisoned in a concentration camp? Like, what if both of those guys had the opportunity to avoid uh, that horrific experience? Would they opt out of it, knowing that A Man's Search for Meaning, the book, wouldn't exist, for Viktor Frankl, or that Nelson Mandela wouldn't have helped topple apartheid and won a Nobel Peace Prize for his work in that? I can't imagine that they would have said, you know what, I don't want that pain of those years in prison. So yeah, I'm going to exit stage right. No, I'm sure they would have opted in. Their higher self already opted in for this and said, yes, I'm in for that, because
So
I know this is going to reveal a lot of light, and it's not just for me, it's for everyone.
So really, there is no what would have. There only is what is, right? And probably there are other timelines, parallel timelines, where that did happen, and they looked at that live and go, "That's not interesting. Let's come back to this one. This is where it's at."
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming on Netflix and other streaming services that seems to be kind of like a disclosure of sorts of what's happening for real behind the scenes, like all these intersecting timelines and having multiple timelines, parallel universes, the observer effect and quantum physics, all that sort of stuff is being shown to us in a kind of a fast food format. Like, for example, the Disney Plus show Loki. And that is all about multiple timelines. And there was this one, what in the show is called a sacred timeline. That's the main timeline, but all these departures from that sacred timeline are snuffed out by the essentially these timeline police. And it's pretty fascinating to think about where did they get this stuff. It's not just some imagination. There's some inspiration coming from the other side. The guides and teachers whispering into people's consciousness, like, hey, this it's time for us to share that there are multiple timelines happening. It's possible to jump timelines.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time.
Upgraded to new timeline.
All the time. I mean, that's what deja vu is when you go from one timeline to another, and there's this cross section, and that's where you go, whoa, I think I've been here before. I felt this. I've said these words already. Yeah, on a different timeline. You did.
Yep, and there's there's some sort of effect where you remember something from I don't know, that let's say from your childhood, and it actually didn't occur that way when you look it up in the
right. There's a term for that. It's called when millions of people remembered a certain event that happened a certain way, and then later on it's like, no, that didn't happen. People are like, what? Oh yeah, I've experienced this a few times in my life, and when that happened, now I know. I go, oh, I jump timelines. There are stories my mom told me about my childhood that I remember so clearly, and now when I talk to her, she's like, what? It didn't happen like that. I'm like, what? You told me, you repeated those stories for years, and now you're telling me it didn't happen. And I just go, oh, I'm on a different timeline. Yes, on this timeline, my mother did not experience those things.
Yeah. So I forget what that's called. Mandela effect.
Yeah, there's some kind of effect.
Mandela effect.
Mandela effect. Yeah. That's the Mandela effect. So yeah, this is a very amazing, wondrous, beautiful, bizarre world. And there's so much more out there than what meets the eye, right? Yeah, and that's really the other thing is why is it that in the past 15 years we see so many zombie movies and zombie shows? It's because actually on one timeline of this planet, there is an actual zombie apocalypse that's happening right now. It just the creators of those shows were able to tap into that timeline. So they see what's happening and they write that down. Not sure if you caught that.
Yeah, I caught some of it. It's in the recording. So,
okay.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it doesn't serve you to go down that rabbit hole, right? Because you can create that reality. You can create World War III by focusing on it so much and believing that it's going to happen. And you might think, well, how the heck can I do that? Like, I'm just one person out of billions. No, you're the person for your universe. And there are countless universes all happening simultaneously in the multiverse. You're the observer who's creating the reality, not just locally, but globally for your universe.
Exactly right. Because you are the main character, the lead character in your own movie.
Yeah, you're Truman. You are Truman. And
Yeah,
everyone is Truman in
exactly.
their reality. And so I'm the observer in my
Exactly.
reality, and all of the other people who I know are actors in my movie. But it's like a way to simplify this down in some respects is to think of this as it's just me and God. Everything else,
That's it.
everybody else, it's all
And really,
God
there's this
except for
God.
me. I learned that in Kabbalah.
And you are God.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, we all are
Well, I
the
mean,
spark
to
of God, absolutely. And um, some people, they feel very threatened by that, or that feels sacrilegious or heretical to say that. Like, you, how dare you say that you are divine, or that are uh, you are God? And no, we're a spark of God. Everything is of God. When God created everything,
yes,
he created it out of something, created it out of himself. So everything,
exactly.
like we are stardust, well, we are God dust.
Exactly. You know that my favorite Rumi quote says, "You're not just a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop."
Yeah, that's a good one. I know we're getting close to time here. Oh, I know we're getting close to time here. I wanted our listener to um, just find out where they could learn more from you, because you have a big mission. You want to help change the consciousness of humanity. Where do folks who are ready to jump on that train go with you? Like, do you have courses, or are you working on a book, or do you have a blog or something where they can learn about this stuff? Because it's for many of us a new kind of thing where I feel like a toddler, like a well, like a kid in a candy store. I'm really excited by it, but I also feel kind of it's kind of daunting, and I don't know who to turn to until I find certain mentors that help me to work on aspects of myself and of the journey. So yeah, where do our listeners go to?
Well, I do have a mentoring program called the Self Mastery Accelerator. I don't have a website for it yet because it's only word of mouth right now. And I work mostly with people in their 20s and 30s. But if you go to LinkedIn and just type in my name, Tian Mu, you can find me, connect me there. I do have an e-commerce business, and you can certainly go there and you can find me as well. You can,
Yeah,
when
so
you
that
email,
e-commerce business is Brethren Shoes, and it's got a really
yeah,
awesome angle
brotherinshoes.com.
to it where you give a pair of shoes away to somebody who needs it each time a person buys a pair of shoes. Like was Tom's shoes an inspiration for you for that?
Yeah, except we're focusing only on those people experiencing homelessness right here in America, in the U.S. We want to start with home, and then we'll expand outwards from there.
Yeah, awesome. And that's at brethrenshoes.com. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, you're a bright
Thank
light
you.
in this amazing simulation. I appreciate you and everything that you do for humanity. Thank you, and I appreciate you, listener, too. Thank you for being open to this kind of outlandish conversation, and to open to changing yourself, and thus everything and everyone around you. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.